So I came to the realization yesterday after watching a documentary on American forest fires that humans have been part of ecosystems forever. So we tend to assume that we have existed outside of nature for a long time, even prior to our agricultural revolution. But the reality is that we were actually super involved in the development of our forest system, particularly in the American West, where there's a lot of forest fires these days. The Native Americans actually spent a lot of time maintaining the forests, cutting down old trees, setting fires to shrub and the kind of lower lying plants in the forest to actually help maintain the longevity, the sustainability of such a thing, which to me was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, because I have come to the conclusion a lot of the time that humans are a part of nature, and that we were born out of it, and that a lot of the things that we find in nature, a lot of the solutions that we find in nature are relevant in our lives. But I never considered that not only did we just take away from our ecosystems, that we were there to consume resources, that we were actually a part of maintaining them. Now, why am I making a video on this? Because that's what I do here at Travelify. I make videos about philosophical lessons that we can extract from life in order to make ourselves better, ourselves more whole, wiser. And the philosophical lesson that I've taken away from this is that our responsibility to the planet was actually a part of us a long time ago, that we were never actually extraneous variables in an otherwise controlled environment, the Earth. We were always actually participants in the evolution of this planet. So I'll tell you a little bit of background on the forest fires in the United States. So there's been quite a few more than the last century. And the reason is because our foresting practices changed a lot over time. So the documentary went into saying that initially, when America was being established, that we did a lot of logging. So we basically ended up taking the biggest trees in our forests, our ecosystems, chopping them down, using them for our infrastructure, for houses and schools and whatever. And that for a long time didn't really make sense to the environmentalists, because these large trees were housing different animal species. They were making up for a lot of the canopy cover. They were essential for repopulating the forest, because these older plants essentially seed. So then the environmentalists made strong enough cases to convince people to not chop down the larger trees in the forest, because apparently those trees are actually the most fireproof as well. And what ended up happening was that we went so far into conserving, we went so far into saying to ourselves that certain species need to survive and that we know how to go about maintaining ecosystems, that we just stopped burning altogether. We stopped chopping most of our trees down, which is a pretty good thing. But we basically extracted ourselves from the conservation areas established by Teddy Roosevelt and some of the other environmentalists. And what this has led to over time, forest fires, it turns out, actually start out because of brush, because of old growth that has fallen to the forest floor, new growth that is just coming up, but basically a conglomeration of fuel for fire. Now, what the Native Americans used to do prior to them being colonialized was actually set fire to that part of the forest. So making sure that all that dead brush doesn't stack up. On top of that, sure, they ended up killing a lot of newer growth, but the older trees, the species of tree that was predominantly in these forests, fireproof large trees, they would have the ability to reseed that ground over time. Super important, because not only does that make the forest more resistant to fire, but it also makes it so that new growth, new fertile soil is created over time. So I say all of this to tell you that because we extracted ourselves from the equation of the ecosystems of these forests, we actually end up making the situation worse for the ecosystem itself. Meaning, in some ways, that forest ecosystem in the Western United States actually depends on human involvement in order to diminish the amount of chaos that occurs or is possible to occur. Now, some of you watching this video might be thinking to yourself, why are you telling me this, Gerard? Why in the world does it matter about our ecosystems? Because this is not the case for me, right? I work in healthcare, I'm a lawyer, I'm a gardener, whatever it is. I'm telling you this because we have a responsibility. At the end of the day, I talk to a lot of people that have the potential of being very powerful in society, meaning they have the career success, they have the economical positioning to actually go and utilize their power in a very positive way. But oftentimes we end up losing or not manifesting our ability to actually change things. And what does that lead to? That leads to a life of not being excited, of not utilizing time, of hating ourselves for not being the very thing that we wish we were. So a big part of my speech, my kind of life goal of convincing people is make a life of service and you will be happier, just genuinely, all around. Every aspect of your life is going to change when we start thinking more about our ecosystem, fine, among humans, socially, human resources, but also I think our planet as a whole, right? So a lot of us growing up these days, we think about, well, what the hell can I do about global warming? What can I do about really any of these major changes that are happening in our economy and the world? My statement to you, if you happen to be part of my generation, if you're older, this is still going to apply. My statement to you is educating yourself on the realities of larger situations is going to make it so that when an opportunity comes by, that you can actually put your brain into and actually make a difference. You will have the education to know what the most efficient difference would be. So go and watch documentaries. Go and have conversations with people about these global topics. Sure, what's going on in Israel, what's going on with Hamas, Palestine, these are things to think about. These are things to talk about. And if you have a conversation with your friends and you guys aren't all particularly educated on the subject, believe me, I am by no means super news oriented when it comes to the world, but just having those conversations and getting our minds to think about the realities in place, the emotions that are involved, it helps broaden our horizons in terms of what life really is. It's not just our apartment. it's not our homes. It's not our families. We have a role in our ecosystems to play consistently. And part of it is realizing that responsibility of actually helping our ecosystem is part of what makes us happier, part of what makes us better, more excited about life. So that's kind of why I made this video, and I hope you got something out of it. If you did, if you made it to this point, please smash that like button for me. It helps a lot. Comment. Let me know what you think about this involvement of humanity in ecosystems and how we've extracted ourselves. I'm very curious if any of you come across similar thought processes in your life. And check out this video if you have some time. This is a video I made a long time ago about the importance of nature and kind of escaping some of the trends that humanity is going through. Actualize your potential, my friend. The world needs you. Take care of yourself.